Okay, y'all. I have a One Piece theory on Blackbeard. Blackbeard basically being the final villain. I know people on the internet think Emu, Blackbeard, and those are the two that it could possibly be. But for me, I'm saying, and it might not, see, for me, it's Blackbeard, right? But it's kind of, complicated how I'm thinking about it. So Blackbeard becomes the final villain by absorbing Emu. How does he absorb Emu? Through the means of his devil fruit, the one called the dark fruit. He absorbs Emu through that, kind of like eating Emu, right? And Emu is powerful, right? We know that Emu is very powerful if we've read the manga or we know about the manga, any of that. He's powerful, right? Blackbeard has means to do that, right? Via his devil fruit. Some people might think he's still overpowered. He can't do that. Actually, he can. I'm telling you, he can. He'll be able to do that. The only way to make Blackbeard that powerful, y'all, is to do something like this, right? Like if he's gonna be a final villain, right? He can't be the final villain with what he has right now. And what he has right now is pretty damn good, but I think there's like I already made my rankings and shit, right? I already said that there's like three people who can beat him, right? And Luffy's actually one of those people who can beat him, even right now. But with Emu's power, that it's almost as if you can negate hockey with it. Not completely, but you know what I mean? Like oh my gosh, manga spoilers in this video. But but God Valley had six conquerors attack, and he still didn't feel anything. It was like he might have got a nosebleed from that, right? That shit's ridiculous, man. How is he gonna, how is Blackbeard gonna be the final villain if he can't do shit like that? The only way is to absorb Emu via his dark fruit. So he does that, and he does get control of Emu's abilities in the process. Now that's crazy, right? But Blackbeard knows how his devil fruits work. He's not a fool, right? He knows about the devil fruit encyclopedia. He knows that devil fruit's not there, right? It don't exist, right? So when or he knows about the ones that are fake and are real, or which ones he wants to go after, or whatever. Sorry about that. Um, but he knows about all the devil fruits, right? And which ones are good, which ones ain't. He knows. He probably knows about that devil fruit. Probably not documented or anything, but he probably knows about it somehow. This guy's not a fool. We know him to be a very intelligent man and an opportunist at that, right? So sneak in and grab the devil fruit. Let's say that he's fighting somebody. We'll just say he's fighting like I don't know, Shanks, Dragon, or Luffy. We'll just put one of the. We don't know how this final like battle's gonna go down, right? If this happens after the One Piece is found or before the One Piece is found, it could be any of those three people fighting even, right? Blackbeard sneaks in the middle of the fight and absorbs him with his ability. Doing this allows him to have Emu's abilities. Now, this shit's crazy, right? Because now he can buff all of his Blackbeard pirates, right? All of his homies in the Blackbeard pirates. He can give them almond buffs, and they become a lot more powerful. Some of these people are like Blackbeard pirates are kind of whatever, but with almond buffs, they ain't fucking weak no more. Like if you thought they were weak before, they're not weak anymore. With these almond buffs, right? And every Titanic captain got them, right? And then he might even try to dummy reverse some people, if he can get the chance to. Um, and like for me, I'm starting to think that Blackbeard's gonna be the guy, or that monster that was depicted in the mirror, and it's not Emu, but it's Blackbeard. And you can tell like it could be Blackbeard too, because what does Blackbeard wear sometimes? Um he wears himself a little bandana on his head, and like look at that monster. That monster don't look like Emu. Blackbeard has long hair, that monster has long hair. they're all fighting that monster. This monster, this final villain, is basically Blackbeard fused with Emu. But Blackbeard, with all this power, um, he kind of loses his shit. Um, that's what I believe will happen. He'll lose his shit. He'll go crazy, and he's basically just a monster. Emu's still trying to fight for control because Emu's had that power for a long time. He ain't just gonna let Blackbeard absorb him and let that be the end of it, right? He's gonna try to take control of Blackbeard's body and still have control, right? And that's what it's gonna be. Basically, a fused Blackbeard with Emu. Everybody has to fight against because Blackbeard's a man who wants everything. And if he wants everything, he's gonna take Emu off the throne. The only way I see the man doing that is with his devil fruit, and he's the only man who can do some shit like that, right? To negate Emu's abilities. If people might give too much glaze to fucking Emu, but why would Emu also have a picture of Blackbeard, right? So he has a picture of Vivi, and he has a picture of Luffy, and he has a picture of Shirahoshi and Blackbeard. Blackbeard was one of the pictures he had, right? Blackbeard's daddy went to Malaysia. He was sitting in the flower room saying, "Hey, I'll be back. Don't think this is the last time we're gonna see each other because we'll see each other again." He's like, boom, he's there. That's Rox Dieselbeck, right? We know him to be Davy Dieselbeck, right? Via the manga, and we'll find this shit out next year in the anime if anime people are watching this shit and they're not supposed to. If you don't want to. He then goes to God Valley and he loses, but his son's still out there. Emu has a picture of Shirahoshi for she is one of the ancient weapons, right? She was born and she's now one of the ancient weapons, right? We have Vivi, she's the descendant of Nefertari D. Lily, right? And the first queen of Alabaster, right? The one who sent out the poneglyphs, probably via the pawpaw fruit, but we don't know that for certainty, but it's more than likely what happened. And she could do that because she'd been to those islands and shit. But that's not what this video is about. And then Luffy because he's a sun god. And then Blackbeard's right there, right? So why is Blackbeard there? Because he's potentially coming back to do what his dad couldn't do. And not potentially, it's gonna fucking happen probably, y'all. So like I'm with these people who think Blackbeard's the final villain. For a second I was like, oh maybe not, but then I'm like, with the manga and everything that went on with his dad, the fact that he knows about all the devil fruits, his devil fruit ain't to be fucking played with. That's why a fight between him and Luffy's extreme diff. And I do understand why people think, Luffy could possibly live to Blackbeard even now with what he has. But I just think Luffy's stronger because of his hockey. And Luffy does have better hockey than Blackbeard. That's why I think he beats Blackbeard. Now with this possible conclusion or ending to the story, with him being the final villain, Luffy ain't gonna be able to beat Blackbeard when he's buffed by Emu's devil fruit. And we know the man can consume more than one devil fruit because, like, this man's after extra fruits. Like, nigga, why do you need, why do you need Bo Hancock's devil fruit? When you got all your people, all your, like, main captains already got devil fruits. Why the fuck do you need that devil fruit? You trying to make some funds on the side while you're doing this shit? Or you gonna feed that shit to somebody else? Or you gonna feed it to yourself? He's probably trying to feed it to himself, but he knows something that everybody else don't fucking know. Very dangerous guy. Not focused on, and he's the king of devil fruit merchants, right? I already made that video a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And that's basically a fact by now. And especially if this theory comes to pass, like you can't say by the end of One Piece, if this ends up happening, y'all, that he ain't the king of devil fruit merchants. He's literally putting like the devil fruits. He's like, you will eat this devil fruit, you'll eat this devil fruit. I have this devil fruit. Oh yeah, I can go get Whitebeard's devil fruit too. So then I'm even more of a fucking problem because Whitebeard's devil fruit said to destroy the world, when awakened and whatnot. So Blackbeard taking on Emu and then absorbing him isn't far out of the equation, y'all. Maybe Like this might be crazy as fuck to say. I might be calling shit out early, but probably not. You know, I could be wrong. Like I'm saying, man, this ain't all for certain. But after Emu's done on, you know, because he's an opportunist, right? After Emu's done on Elbaf, you know, now he didn't take too much damage there, right? But he might take some damage because he had to like leave and he can't be there all the time, right? So he has to come back and like recharge, right? When he comes back to try to recharge, guess who's waiting for him? Blackbeard's already there, and that's why, you know, shit's going down at Marijwa. Now there's a whole bunch of powerful people at Marijwa too who are amped by Emu, right? Or have Emu's abyss marks and shit, right? That was the five girls say, and then the holy knights that are there. But Blackbeard has some people who are capable on his side. Um, Now it could be Blackbeard, it could be the Revolutionary Army. This might be a move that happens later in the story, but Blackbeard, I do believe he can do that. He can negate the Devil Fruit, absorb him, basically consume him in the darkness. Not don't let him like come out like because he can pull people into the darkness and then shoot them out, but he ain't gonna allow Emu to leave, and he's gonna absorb him, right? So when he does this, then he becomes that giant ass monster that's in the mirror, and then everybody has to fight against Blackbeard in the final war. You know, Blackbeard was a pirate, like he's a known pirate in like real life, right? You know, why wouldn't this story have him as the final villain? And why the fuck is Emu popping up in Elbaf? We thought Emu would be revealed for another while, right? But he's starting to appear here. Um, and like that would be crazy as fuck if Luffy has to now fight Emu again, but he's basically possessing Blackbeard, or Blackbeard and him are in fight or control over his body, and then he becomes this giant monster, you know, because of that. And he's like, you know, I'll take over everything and everything will be mine. And everybody's just like, no, 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 we can't let this guy destroy everything with this like crazy lust for power, you know. And that's where I think that shit's going towards the end, man. It ain't like Blackbeard, him like as he is, can fight against like Luffy or anybody else and be like, because like if people team up, they can take down Blackbeard, man. The only way to make Blackbeard that type of final villain is for him to absorb Emo. That's the only way, you know. Because let's say that Shanks and Luffy find Blackbeard at, you know, after. Blackbeard is not winning that fight. Like on my opinion, Luffy or Shanks could beat Blackbeard extreme difficulty. Now, I might lean towards Blackbeard beating Shanks via maybe um, his crew hopping in and trying to like, you know, take him out or something like that. But because he knows he can't just straight up beat him, right? But um like if he's gonna be the final villain, he's absorbing Emu, and I'm the one telling y'all that right now. And that monster in the mural is not Emu, but it's Blackbeard fused with Emu. But be cool, on the corner, y'all, and let me know what you think. But that should be an issue because he still has his powers, right? Of the Gura and the Darkness Fruit and Emu's powers to then buff everybody else on his side. You know, this shit would be fucking ridiculous. You know, forget about Kaguya from Naruto. If this shit ends up happening, bro, like this is a powerful foe. You know, basically all factions have to team up. Like everybody has to put their differences aside to take this shit out. Um, you know, maybe that One Piece is some power up for Luffy. We don't know yet, but yeah, that's where I'm at with Blackbeard being the final villain, y'all. But be cool, call on the corner and let me know what you think about this theory in the comments below.